Good morning and welcome to this virtual office hour. My name is Joe Schmidt. I'm the Social Studies Specialist for the Maine Department of Education. I'm happy to welcome Brandi LeRoy here to talk about ArcGIS and story mapping. Brandi is an expert in the field of this, working with Esri, a national organization, and is going to be able to tell you the resources that you have access to as an educator to support the learning of your students. So without, and I'm sorry, Bangor High School, right, Brandi?
So, yeah.
Bangor High School, thank you. My mind's running a little slow today, so, but I'm gonna turn it over to Brandi for the rest of the way.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brandi LeRoy. Like Joe said, I teach social studies at Bangor High School. And I am an Esri T3G alumni, which means Teachers Teaching Teachers, GIS. I've been out to Redlands, California, trained with them to teach other teachers how to use this technology. And I'm in very close contact with Esri. I'm a little bit obsessed with them. You can see I have my Esri coffee mug. I have my Esri logo on my phone case. So Esri stands for the Environmental Science Research Institute, but don't let that fool you. This is a technology that can be used for any subject, any age group, and I'm going to throw a lot of information at you. Stop me at any time. I've put a lot of information on the story map link that I've given you so that you guys are able to access that at a later time. So let me start sharing my screen. All right, everyone see that? We good? All right. So we're going to look today at how ArcGIS can help us with remote learning. And the map that's here, this is the coronavirus map for the state of Maine. And you can see the data that was put on there. Down in Cumberland County has the most. Up here in Penobscot County, we're getting there. So one thing that I have noticed a lot with this whole coronavirus thing is that people are starting to look at maps a whole lot more. And I think that's really great for Esri. You guys have probably seen, let me scroll down, this map, this dashboard that was created with Esri software, which shows all of the cases throughout the world. You can click on the individual countries and see where we are. So here we are in the US and it's kind of blown up. My students have actually been watching this since January. So when we started watching this dashboard in January, we had like 5 cases. And the kids were fascinated by it. We were talking about the 5 themes of geography. We were talking about movement and globalization. And this was an awesome tool until, it started to scare them a little bit. But they'll email me daily and be like, have you seen the map today? Have you seen the map today? So this is a really great resource. You can look in and see them by different states. So we've been looking at that since the beginning. And this is something that can be created with ArcGIS. So let me go back to the beginning and talk about online organizations. Esri allows every school in the nation to have an organizational account. And in order to sign up for an organizational account, you just go to their education website, which I have put in here, School Mapping Software Bundle. And you can see if your school already has an account. And from there, you can sign up for an account. And it's absolutely free. You just fill out a form and it gives you access to customize your own school website. Each of your students can get individual logons for single use sign-on. You can create you can create maps and apps. You can save them and you can share them securely. So these are things that can be shared with just you. It can be shared with just a class. It can be shared across an organization, so your school, or they can share it out publicly. So you get to choose how they share it. It gives them access to some really cool apps like story maps. This presentation's in a story map form, and I'll show you some other story maps as we go along. Survey 123, which is a really cool program that you can use. It's an app that you can get for your phone, or you can just use it online, and you create almost like a Google form type thing, but it has spatial data in it, and you can map out things. And the main thing with GIS is to do geographic analysis. You can look and understand, you know, where things are and why they're happening in certain areas. So that being said, and you can, the first thing that I've given you down here is the website that will take you right to the school mapping software bundle. So you can sign up. ArcGIS just announced yesterday that all students, whether or not there's an org account or not, can have GIS access to do a lot of these different lessons. So if you don't have an org and you have students who want to be doing things, they do have access to that now. So there's some different ways that you guys can engage your students using GIS. The first one is pre-built online learning plans. They've put together a lot of these learn.arcgis.com plans to help people so that they can just navigate and learn how to use this. So the first one is getting to know GIS for secondary students. It's about a 6.25 hour course with different sections to it. And they learn the basis of GIS. They work with ArcGIS online to interact with maps. They explore real-world problems. They find out how workers use GIS, how it can be used in the field, what it takes to become a professional. And if you click on the Explore, it's not going to let me. So you can see they just sign up and then they enroll, and it allows them access to those different courses. So that's the first one. So that's built right in. You can access that. As long as you have an account and sign in, you can get that class on, you know, for secondary students. Now, how many of you are high school teachers? Elementary school?
I teach high school. This is Amber.
Okay. Are there any elementary school teachers? No? All right. Well,
6th grade and middle school.
okay, awesome. So another thing that we have.
Brandi, can I pause you really quick? I just want to let you know, people are chiming in. Tim says he's high school. I know Amber's high school. She had chimed in. Deborah says she's middle school. Sonia says she's middle school. And if I remember correctly, that Leslie is 6th grade? 6th grade, yep. And there was also a question, and I'm sorry, Deborah, if you can maybe clarify. You said, is that for teachers or students? And I'm not quite sure what was on at that point. And I apologize, I have a puppy who's playing with his rope right now, so that's all the noise on my end.
So the org accounts, you sign up as a teacher and you can sign up all your individual students. The new thing that they just came out with yesterday is for teachers or students can sign up for it. You just need to have a school email account and they will let you in. So if you want to try it out before you set up your org account, you can do that. All right, so our next, let's see, how do I get rid of the chat box in the middle of my screen? Let me move some things around. There we go. All right, so the next thing are semi-built online activities. Geo inquiries. I use geo inquiries all the time in my class. Actually, my students, they have some options this week on what to do. And this geo inquiry that's right here, the Dust Bowl, is one of the ones that they have. We're looking at the Great Depression right now, so this goes perfectly along with it. So these are 15 to 20 to 30-minute lessons that have already been created for you. There are 2 tiers to the geo inquiries. There's level 1. You don't have to have a sign on. You don't have to have an org account. You can just use it. Level 2s look at more of an analysis base, so you have to have an org account if you want to do a level 2. This Dust Bowl one is just level 1. My US history students, they don't have logons. My geography ones do, but they just do this. And these are PDFs that you can download. And then from the PDF, you can edit it. It has the answers in it, but you can take them out if you're editing it with a PDF. And it goes through the geo inquiry process. So you're looking at asking and acquiring information and exploring and analyzing, and then coming up with a solution to an issue, or how you're going to proceed with whatever that main question is. So this one's on the Dust Bowl, but there are all kinds of other options on here. Let's see. So I have included the collection of geo inquiry on the story map for you. Maybe I can get there through here, maybe not. So the geo inquiries are down here. And if you just click on that, it takes you in, and there are geo inquiries from everything from American literature to environmental science to human geography. There's upper elementary, so for your 6th graders, that would be perfect. There's US history, world geography, world history. So there's a little bit of everything in there for you to play around with. Another thing with pre-built lessons, you can actually use story maps that have already been created. So the story map gallery, I love using this with my students. And one of the things that I do with remote learning, they have their assignment for the week, but I put in a lot of other information for them. You can search up whatever you're looking for and put a story map in there for them to explore. So if you want them to look at vector-borne diseases with mosquitoes, you can see that the information's all there, and they've created these dynamic story maps. A lot of them are interactive. Infectious diseases that threaten global health and global pandemics. So you can play around with those, and you don't have to have an org account or anything to access these. These are open to the public, and you can play around with all of the different ones. I think it's really kind of cool though for some of the kids to see, like, this is international air travel and how it spreads infectious disease. So those are all accessible for you. So then we also have pre-built online short courses, and you can sign up for these. You can sign up for a free org account to do some of these. You can sign up for the school org account to be able to do these online courses. And they're about 2 hours long, and there's all kinds of different things that you can look at with these online courses, and they're free. And then there are some semi-built online activities. Teach with GIS. These are textbooks that you can get. There's an implementation guide, there's lesson libraries, You can contribute your own lessons to it and look at the different lessons that they have on there. And then brand new, they're coming up with these wide open geo projects. These are built classroom data collection projects to get kids out in the field, collecting data. There's all different subject areas that you can look at. And this is brand new. So, you know, they're adding new things daily for these geo projects. So I want to kind of look at some of the resources that I've given you on here. Everything I've talked about is linked on the story map. You can create your own story maps through ArcGIS, something like this. So you've got your story map gallery on here. You have your geo inquiries. You have the teach with GIS on here, and you have the geo projects. So one of my favorite things that ArcGIS allows us to use are some of the data collection tools. These are all included in an org account. So you can use Collector for ArcGIS, ArcGIS Quick Capture, and then Survey 123, which is used mostly by schools. And that's the one that I said is kind of like a Google form. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So this is the link to Survey 123. They actually just came out with a Learn.ArcGIS that helps you to develop more knowledge on Survey 123. But these are two story maps that have been created. I created the one on the social distancing bear hunt, but this one's done by Charlie Fitzpatrick, who is one of the main educator professionals for Esri. And it's a story map embedded in a story map. And if you click the little arrow, it takes you down, maybe. For some reason, it's not wanting to. Click for me. That's okay. I can. Get there in another way. So go. So mapping is it. Nope. This one's done by the Story Maps team with mapping of the coronavirus. But I will show you, I'll show you my bear hunt one. And this one is great for elementary schools. Anyone ever read the book, We're Going on a Bear Hunt? So there has been a thing online where people are putting bears in their windows. And for social distancing, you can go out and go on a bear hunt. So I created this story map as an example of something that we could do with our students remotely to teach them about this book and also about mapping. So the first thing I love about story maps is you can include YouTube videos on there. So the YouTube video of We're Going on a Bear Hunt, the cartoon version is on here. There's a article from Time Magazine on here about the social distancing friendly bear hunt. And then this is the survey. So you can pull this up on your phone, or if you have a tablet, if it's not connected to the internet, when you're out and about, you can still pull this up when you have the internet and then submit it when when you're done with your points. So I love that about Survey 123. The kids don't have to have the internet when they're out in the field. They just have to pull it up with the internet, and then once they get back to the internet, they can submit it. So how many bears? There's locations that have several. They can take a picture of it with their camera, and then you pinpoint where it is and submit. And when that happens, it goes onto a map. And you can see these are some of the points that have been put on the map already, that people have gone out. And I've got a couple out of state. I put it on my Twitter, and some people went out and got them. So there's 2 bears. They've submitted a picture on here in New York. The one out here in Kansas, they actually put a picture of a dinosaur. So somebody left a dinosaur somewhere and they took a picture of that one, which I thought was kind of funny. And then we've got a bunch up here in Maine that have been put in. This one's mine. So we've got, so you can teach the kids about this book, but also have them go out in the field, collect data, and then you can do analysis on it where you can, see where the most concentrated areas are. You can do a hotspot analysis and see what they can find. So that's using Survey 123, and that's just a really simple survey. I use Survey 123 when I'm teaching about movement. I have the students look at the tags on everything. So their clothes, their food, their backpacks, and record where they come from so that they can see how things move on a global scale. So that's just a few ways that you can use this. And like I said, I've given you guys a lot of the resources so that you guys can play around with it. There are also books out there. Esri GIS Education, if you're on Twitter, is an awesome resource. And Esri Press has allowed educators to be able to get any of their books. You can just go to VitalSource and sign up, and you can get any of their Learn how to use ArcGIS books. There's a lot of really great resources out there. And then this is the press release from yesterday. Students get free access to software for continued education through coronavirus closures. So that's how you go about, and this is the actual link to that article, how you go about getting those free lessons and free access. So does anyone have any questions? I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, and there's a lot that goes along with this, but if you play around with it, it's so much fun that you can have with GIS. Questions? Comments? I see a question in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself too.
Good morning, Brandi. This is Susan Johnson. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. So just to follow up, you were just talking about all of these materials are, I guess I'm asking for clarification. Are all of these materials free just during the COVID shutdown, or is there a subscription fee to access this?
So the ArcGIS online organizational accounts are free for K-12 schools anytime. You just have to sign up using that first link that I gave you. So the school mapping software, if you click on that, it will take you in, and it tells you about the licensing, how many, if you have a club or you're a homeschool, you can get 50 licenses And then there's a form down here, and you just fill that out. And it goes into Charlie Fitzpatrick, our Esri guru, and he will send you your license, and you can use it right away. Like, he usually sends that out within 48 hours.
Okay, so is that the first step?
That would be the first step if you want an org account for your school.
Okay, what would the second step be then?
The second step would be to look at all of the resources that are out there. Once you have your org account, you can set up however many licenses that you want. You can set your students up, you can set yourself up, and create survey 123s and distribute them to your students. The sky is really the limit once you get that org account.
Okay. That's awesome. Thank you so much. This is really cool. Thank you.
And Tim asked about GPS mapping software that Esri recommends. Esri really doesn't recommend much for the GPS mapping software. They just use their use the ArcGIS online. And sorry, my cat's having a fit over here playing with toys. The ArcGIS online will give you options to download apps like Collector or Survey 123 or Quick Capture, and those act as GPS units. So if your students are out in the field or you're out in the field, you can use that to capture that data. So you don't really need to use the GPS mapping software. If you want to, pretty much anything, any GPS unit that will transfer over as a file onto your computer, you can upload onto a map, which gets into a whole other realm of how to use the maps and how to upload information and data. And, but those learned ArcGIS courses, I mean, they will give you everything that you could ever need. Any other questions?
I'm kind of just thinking I love the bear hunt activity, and I've seen people posting about it up here in the Brewer Orrington area, and I would love to incorporate that in some way with my sixth graders. I'm trying to figure out how to modify it because they're so rural. They don't have neighborhoods with houses close together to go look. So if anybody's having some ideas or has done that, or if you have, Brandi, or you know of a way to modify that and to get that to be something similar, that's what's running through my head right now. I'd love, love, love to do that.
I'm not really sure. I mean, it might be a way to get, kids out hanging out with their family, going for a drive, or, asking, on social media, can somebody put points on this for me? Do you have a bear in your house?
I like the social media part. Obviously now they can't just, according to our governor, starting tonight at midnight, they can't just drive around and go look for bears, darn it. But a way to do it with digital, with people posting, would be a way where they could go look at data.
Yep.
Collect it and find the ones. Ooh, Joe, I'm thinking about tying this in with to the 5 themes, and like where in your region, where in your 200-mile scope. Sorry, building a unit in my head. Okay, I'll think quietly.
I do that all the time. No worries. Yeah, I mean, we call that crowdsourcing, and you throw that information out there and people will shoot it back.
Brandi, would you be willing to just, I know that you know the stuff inside and out and upside down and backwards, try to put yourself in, I think we'd heard from Susan, right? Okay, so step 1, I get my account. Step 2, I explore. Amber's kind of, I think, in the same spot. Like, if you had to give one suggestion for using this in the next week or so with students and you're brand new, like what's a simple kind of paint by numbers approach that you could recommend?
I would start with applying for your account, and then I would go to the link with the Teach with GIS, and read through some of that documentation that they have on there. There are, my internet is not liking me right now. All right, here we go. So once you get into this, there are, you can look at how you're going to integrate, mapping and location analytics in the classroom. You can look at it as a school or you can look at it as a district. And these documents, these implementation guides are amazing. And they will give you some step-by-step and ideas of how to get going with this. So this is the Teach with GIS implementation guide. Getting started learning path for teachers, tips and tricks for a GIS-enabled classroom, how to use the curriculum builder, organization management, and then a bunch of additional resources. And this is wonderful to really get started. And then from there, you can build it however you want. Any other questions? Or can I build on that for anyone? Yeah, it's crazy the amount of, that, oh, tell me about making apps. So the really cool thing about ArcGIS, I'm gonna log onto my account so you guys can see it. And so like I said, you can do customizable websites. So you can see as I log in, this is the Bangor High School website, and I've customized it for us. So we've got, and you can put story maps on there that you think would be interesting to your students. But for the apps, there's this little, once you have your org account, there's this little waffle up here in the corner. And these are all of the ways that you can build different types of apps. So there's App Studio, where you can actually build like apps for the phone. There's developers. So this is where you can like kind of start from scratch if you have kids who are into coding and things like that. Dashboards are like what the coronavirus dashboard that I showed you that has all of the analytics on it. Story maps are here. There's the Living Atlas, which is a whole library of different layers that you can add to your maps that have all been vetted by Esri. So you've got, demographics, you've got Landsat data, any type of data that you could ever think of would be in this Living Atlas. Can two teachers build this site together? Yes, you can. You just have to set both teachers as administrators, and they can work off of each other. I work with the science department on this. I've added them in this year, and we have been like working throughout the year on getting kids to use ArcGIS in both courses, and we've been building on to the site together. Both teachers can add story maps that they're interested in. Survey 123 is here. Workforce, this is an app that allows you to, customize what person is going to go out and collect what data. ArcGIS Online. Community Analyst, this allows you to go out and, find the different demographics in an area. It could be really good to find, whether or not, a place is good for a store. You could see where, the highest income is in certain areas. And then, there's all kinds of different other ones here. Quick Capture, that's a newer one. That allows you to go out and grab some data really quick and then put it on the map. So there's just so much to it. But like I said, the sky's the limit. Once you get that org account and get playing around, you can do so much. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, and I hope those resources are really helpful, that you can click on those and find those. If you don't sign up for an org account, the geo inquiries and those story maps, you can use those without an account. And those are also a great jumping point to really get kids engaged with maps and story maps and thinking geographically about things.
Brandi, are you willing to share like your email information if people if they start to jump in on some stuff and tomorrow or this weekend or a week from now, they've got some kind of specific questions? Are you willing to follow up?
Definitely. Okay. Definitely. BLeRoy at bangorschools.net. I'll put it in the chat for you. I'd love to answer questions about this. This is kind of my jam. I love talking about GIS, so anytime, feel free to reach out.
Last call on any questions? And I do know I have enough familiarity with ArcGIS to know like it's a lot that comes at you. Even if you've got a little bit, it's like, wow, okay. So I will echo Brandi's a little bit about, I think you got to get in there and just play a little bit and just kind of see what it is. She gave you some kind of entrance points in there to work with. And I just love, for me, this is how I really think we should approach geography, this type of, spatial awareness and thinking of layering of information. I always tell the story that my high school geography class, we called it coloring class. Because we would be getting maps and then we would color them, and we'd have to label them. And that's turns out years later that's not what geographers do. They take information like this and they process things, and they can look through a historical lens or a scientific lens, and just so many different ways to interpret data about the world around us, and we need to map it in some meaningful way. And I like how Brandi had started definitely with the COVID-19 situation, right? You see maps all the time right now, and they're ways to map information and data. I am dropping into go ahead.
Starting my semester with, we've talked the 5 themes of geography. So we're talking about movement, and we started with that map. And the kids have such an understanding now of how this is moving. And they email me daily, like, have you seen the map today? Have you seen the map? Have you seen how it's spreading to this area? And, they really get it when they can actually see it.
Susan, I'll answer your question in just 1 second. I'm dropping into the chat box. There is a form that will take you to a little bit of feedback. If you would like a contact hour certificate for participating today, whatever you put in for an email address, that's where it will send it. It will auto-generate, so make sure you get your email correct, and whatever name you want on the certificate. There's a couple questions in there, and then the very last question asks if you completed the webinar, and you have to click yes. That is the correct answer, and then you will get a 100%, and it will auto email you your certificate. So if you click no, then I can't help you. So please just click yes, and it will send you your certificate. Susan, can you talk a little bit about the main social studies standards? Are there new standards being introduced to teachers? I'm getting back to teaching social studies. We have revised standards. I would say the geography section, in thinking through that lens, was probably the least changed section of it. The only guidance that the steering committee gave the writing team on that was to update like the technology components of it. You know, and so to think about like ArcGIS and that type of mapping stuff should be incorporated in. And even if it's not specifically called out, we wanted to make sure that we talked about, I think it says like, you know, appropriate technology, that we're moving beyond just maps and even just Google Earth as a virtual map component to it. I can also put in, even though there's, feels like a million new things in regards to our new distance learning, there is still a standards and instruction page. I will drop into the chat box. That has different videos written by co-chairs of the writing team. There's different we did trainings. So the only ones that we've gotten up so far is the Maine Native American trainings that we did on that. There's a webinar that I did right at the beginning, the very first video on there. It's a 30-minute overview of the standards process, what you need to know, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's a variety of resources. So if you're looking at the geography page, here, I'm going to take this back from you, Brandi, and then I'm going to do a screen share. So here's I just sent you the link to this page. And currently there's banners on top with the new continuity of resources. But if you want to kind of get the whole overview, this is a 29-minute webinar that I did that talks about the entire process. We have different members of the writing team talking about the work that they did and how they saw the whole situation. There's resources based on grade level and then content. So if you want to do more about geography, here are pieces and other things. So you see like the ArcGIS geo inquiries are part of that. There's links to maps, the state of Maine, ArcGIS online. So those are things that you may want to look at. And then the standards themselves are there. Here's the Maine Native American piece. But I always, when people talk about the new standards, I always just say, no, we just revised them. There was not major changes. I think if you, anybody who is doing quality social studies education to begin with, I don't think you're going to have to see any change in what you are doing. We had a little bit more of some clarity around personal finance, some emphasis on how to approach teaching about Maine Native Americans. We updated like some of the technology pieces, some emphasis on primary sources, and some of the formatting and framework. But there wasn't a real big piece on that. But if you look through those web pages and the webinars and stuff like that, and you still have questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Susan, happy to help. Last call on any questions for Brandi. Anybody having issues with the certificate? Checking right now to see, I see some responses coming in. Otherwise, I will stop the recording.